Hi everyone, and welcome to the Room for Discussion hosted Student Politics Introduction event. Today here we have a fair, and later we will also have a debate. First we will start with introductory speeches that are going to be discussing the nature of the Central Student Council, student politics in general, and also the parties that we have here represented today.
First we'll be getting an introduction, first from Gijsbert, then from Ava, from Len, from Peter Joost, and from Yashi to talk about the importance of student politics.
Yeah. Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
And welcome everyone. Very good that you're here.
No, wait.
My name is Gijsbert van Scholten. As you can tell from the color of my hair, I'm not a member of any student party here, but I'm one of the teaching staff, teaching in political science. And they asked me to convince you in 3 minutes why it's a good idea to run for the student council. And of course, 3 minutes is a lot of time for the TikTok generation, but for people like me who used to lecture in 45 minutes, it's really short. So I prepared some notes to make sure I don't digress too much. Like I said, I teach in the political science department where I stand out. You would say I'm a bit of a unicorn. I think that's the proper slang term here. Because different than all my other colleagues who only study politics, I also practice politics at a very nice, comfortable, accessible, straightforward level of the municipal council of Alkmaar, where I live. Which is a very good idea. Next year there's elections for that. Join the party, sign up, become a member. It's a wonderful side job. But more to the point, this experience of actually also engaging in politics has taught me many things that I didn't get from just theory and lectures and reading about it and doing a PhD in political science. It teaches you how politics actually works. Not just at the municipal level, but also in international relations that I mostly teach about. Because the mechanisms are not that different, and the mechanisms are also not that different for student politics. It's just that sort of the consequences of the actions that you take are somewhat different. Alkmaar has not started any wars. I'm happy to say they also did not really engage in colonial contests. There's just the research coming out about that. The worst thing that we do is sort of fight with neighboring municipalities over spitspalen. I don't know if you know what spitspalen are. They're these nice little iron things that sink into the ground and then come up when there's rush hour. Amsterdam uses like big concrete slabs for that to make traffic jams, but out in the provinces we have slightly more sophisticated mechanisms. But that's a different story. I only have 3 minutes, so I'll go. The point is, you learn politics by engaging in it. And this is where the student councils are really, really, really very, very nice opportunities for all of you. It's a great opportunity to learn about politics, but also to learn, if you're not interested in politics, it's also to learn how big organizations are actually being run and what it takes to be in charge of a big organization. And some of you who are more on the sort of business side of things maybe would say, well, that's interesting for me, so join a student party. It's going to be very, very good. Wonderful experience. Finally, because we only have 3 minutes, it's not just good for you, it's also that the university, people like me, they also need you. Because we select our deans and our directors and our college van bestuur and all those people, first of all, on the fact that they're really good at doing research. You first need to become a full professor, which is something I will never, ever, ever become because, well, I don't do research. I just teach because I love teaching and I don't like all this number crunching and writing stuff. I'm like you. So you have a track record as a researcher, but it doesn't mean that you actually know what students want or what young people, how they think, or that you know the proper slang word or what the TikTok generation even is. No, you just, well, it's also that they don't necessarily do it, but they really need your input. We really need your input. So if you don't do it for your own career because you're a sort of altruistic person and that says, well, no, I'm not going to do it for my CV. No, do it because it's good for the world, because it's good for the university. We really, really, really need people. And so please, please, please help us out. Okay, so join the party, listen to all these other people. Make sure parties are also great ways to make new friends. It's a democracy. Enjoy it while you have it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, hi. Hi, my name is Ava, and I'm a representative from the Faculty of Social and Behavioral Sciences. And today I'm going to tell you a bit more about what practical experience in these councils looks like. Student politics isn't just bureaucracy. It's about who makes the decisions at the top level. It's about making student voices heard. Because behind every policy, there's a decision. And behind every decision, there's either a seat for students or there isn't. And that's what student representation is really about. At the UvA, we have two levels of student representation. There's the CSR, or the Central Student Council, and the FSRs, or the Faculty Student Councils, which I'm a part of. Think of the CSR as steering the ship, and the FSRs as the people on deck making sure that students are heard and that the system works for them at that level. The Central Student Council deals with issues that affect every single student. Things like diversity, things like student rights, digitalization, and issues such as these. The FSR, on the other hand, makes sure that the systems that are in place work for them on a smaller scale. I can tell you more about my own experience within these councils. This year, my council prioritized student outreach, so events such as these, where we reach out to students and make sure that they understand that these systems are in place to help them. And other than that, we also have worked on things like digitalization. So we organized an event with the leading people that work on AI at UvA. We gave students the opportunity to talk to these people to understand how AI would change their educational experience. A more concrete example of the kind of work we do was actually something that the council last year worked on, which is the contemplation room. Before it existed, students, especially Muslim students, didn't have the space to actually pray or even just to take a breath. Now they do. This is a small room, but it represents a big thing, and it's that students matter here. So if you care about these kinds of issues and want to be part of the force that changes these things, run. It's a great opportunity. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so I'm Len, I'm from the Law Faculty Council and I ran with Inter last year. So I will also continue with Eva to give some examples of what you can actually achieve at the faculty level. So this year I really had to go to try to push anonymous grading at the faculty level because it was not really happening at a lot of places. And then I think this is a great professional experience you can have of how to approach these things. So I really try to work together with the board, with the examinations committees, with the program committees. So all of these things might sound a bit strange to you now, but hopefully when you sign up and run next year and get elected, it will all become more familiar. But yeah, it's a very good experience to talk to different people, to approach different people, to see, this is the scope of this organization and I can achieve this here. And by doing so, you can, as I did, really try to push something that you want to achieve. So I made some small progress in this, and then I also, you really have the opportunity to work on small issues that you like, or also work together with other people and other organizations to do these kind of things. So that was a bit for me, and now it's
Yes, hello, my name is Peter and I'm a representative of the FSR FEB. I'm a council member there and I focused the last few months mostly on the topic of the UR, that's the examination and other regulations of the university. It's a file that comes back every year and every FSR has the right to consent on it. That means that if we don't agree with it, it's not legally binding. What you can think about in this file is inspection rules, rules for fraud, or also more rules really closely related to your program. When is which course? The part about the more broad topics, we have a right of consent on. So what we did this year was talk about or advise on change in rules of how you could look at your exam after you made it. Also, we propose to change in more program-specific parts. This is something you work together on with the onderwijscommittees, research committees. And yeah, that's something really important file this year, and what we worked on. We now gonna listen to Yashi talk about the CSR more.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm a member of the CSR, and today I'm just going to speak freely about my own committee. So I'm the organization and finance chair. And within the CSR, you get to work on a lot of different things, but some things that I've worked on the past few months are the framework letter, the budget, menstrual products, profiling fund. There's so many things that you can do if you're a part of the CSR. And I think it's the best way to really maximize your student years, because you get to be so involved as a student in all of the university processes. You get to work directly with the CVB, with the dean, and with many other stakeholders in the university who are really important in decision making. So you are kind of working with the people at the highest level within the university, which is really cool. If you don't think that's already cool, then you get to meet some of the best people you've ever met. These people are equally as passionate as you are about changes within the university. So if there's something that you really want to see change within the university, I would 100% encourage you to run, because this has been, I think, the best thing that I've taken up. And yeah, I think going into my files more, in a few months, you will see dispensers around the university in every building of free menstrual products. That's something that we didn't have before, but it took years of work to achieve by the CSR, and it's a big win. Things like that are really good to achieve within the CSR. That's something you can work on. And yeah, I would really encourage you guys to run. That's all I can think of at the top of my head, but yes, please run. That's all.
Thank you all for those lovely speeches. Now we go on to the debate. We'll first welcome up the Vrije Student, Peter. Then we will have Inter by Matthias. Then Uva Social by Samia. And lastly, the Activist Party by Hidde. Before we start this debate, we want to go over a couple ground rules. For each speech, there's limited speaking time. We will give the turns. Afterwards, there's chances for them to respond. They can respond for 20 seconds. And there will also be time for some audience questions.
You will have the opportunity to ask audience questions at the end of each section. We're going to have 2 sections today. Before those sections, we're going to start with a couple of rapid-fire questions and a few general questions. And the sections will be firstly on the protest and democracy at the university, and thereafter about education and internationalization. Please use that opportunity to ask questions. We really want to see more participation and engagement with student politics. I feel like I don't have to convince you after these wonderful speeches before this already. And yeah, thank you very much for being here, and let's get started.
First, we'd like to start with each speaker introducing their party and the main goal they have for the upcoming year, starting with Hidde.
And you will have 1 minute for this.
All right, so what we're doing here today is we're doing a little introduction for the parties. So the Activistenpartij is a broad leftist student party. It includes radical elements as well. We want to quickly take a moment of the speech that was done before. We heard a lot of people that you heard about people joining student politics for their CV. We heard people joining student politics, good experience, which is all very nice. What we see with activist parties, we have students that actually try to change our university because we really care about it. We have some very good statements that we try to improve this university. We got to make sure that it's more, takes a responsibility for ethical, its ethical foundations, for example, with student politics, for example, with the international collaboration with genocidal supporting universities. We make sure that for sustainability, our university also doesn't have these ties with greenwashing companies. For the rest, we are also a party
Please
that really...
round up.
Sorry?
It's time's up.
Time's up, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Now we're moving on to Uva Social, represented by Samia.
Yeah. So basically, Uva Social's goal this year is to make people more aware about politics, and this event is helpful for this. because I think a lot of people don't know that there is a CSR and there are different FSRs. And I think it's very important for people to know that this is a part of the university and students can actually make a big change. And UvA Social, we stand for inclusivity, diversity, sustainability, education. And I think as a whole, we can really benefit and student voices can be heard. And I'm here just to make people aware about student politics as a whole and our party. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Now on to Inter by Matthias.
Hi everyone. Yeah, Inter is really trying to bring student politics to the students. That is the motto we gave this year's boards, our work for this year. So that is also why maybe I have this event. I can say that the initiative for this event came from Inter, and we also, before that, we organized student forums where we gave students a space, an open space to discuss all kinds of issues, problems, and also ideas with us. So yeah, really our approach is to listen to the students' concerns and to bring them to student politics and to have the opportunity for students to be in contact with student politics.
Thank you. And last but not least, the Vrije Student, Peter.
Yes, my name is Peter. I'm from the Vrije Student. We are a liberal party with members from more socially liberal people to more classical liberal people. What we find most important this election is the lack of public debate at the university. But what I think is the most important part of this election is the values we all should share in this university, especially as representatives. If I then see that last year's chair of the CSR gets arrested for throwing rocks at the police, that we see more parties here that support these kinds of demonstrations, even organize these kinds of demonstrations that cost the university millions in damages. I think that's not the values we want our representatives to share. So I think that's what this debate and also this year's elections is about.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, moving on to the section with rapid fire questions. We have phrased them so that it should be easy to answer with a yes or no. For yes, candidates, please raise your hand. For no, please keep your hand down. If you're somewhere in the middle, which I understand that you may be, please do this. Try to do this as little as possible so you can give people an idea. If it's a yes, but it's still a yes. There's no possible elaboration in this section. There will be an opportunity to do so later. If you feel like you want to come back to points, please make notes, and then you can bring that up later under relevant questions.
Okay, so the first one is, do you believe that students should be trained on the usage of AI? Okay. Do you believe the university should have numerous fixes caps on any degrees?
Sorry?
That the university should have numerous fixes caps on any degrees? Any, just have them at all. Okay. Do you believe that mandatory attendance for seminars should be kept? Okay.
Do you believe that the CSR should have the right to veto university policy? Do you support anonymous grading? Do you think that there are too many international students? Do you think there should be more educational programs in Dutch? Should the university provide mental health services also for non-study related issues?
Should the university provide free menstrual products? Should the university stop having a binding study advice? Should the university cut ties with Shell? And should the university cut ties with all Israeli institutions? Okay.
I just want to take a moment to have a round of applause for these wonderful candidates that managed to get through yes or no questions.
But of course, for voters, it's important not only to understand what you guys stand for, but also where you differ amongst yourselves. So we want to take the time to ask you one thing that you disagree with on another party on. We'll start with UvA Social.
And you will have 45 seconds for that.
So I think we really stand for inclusivity and diversity. And there are some parties that think that that's not really internationalism, as we talked about it, a part of the debate is not really meant. And I think it's very important for different cultures and different people to bind together in university and learn from their experiences. And I think it's very important for there to be a diverse CSR, FSR, and different faculties under the FSR. And I think it's very important for international students. I'm an international student, and just knowing other people from other places really helps out, and it actually binds to the cultural differences and makes the university one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, Peter, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I thought the question was should the number of internationals be kept at the university? That's right. So I didn't say we should get rid of all internationals or we shouldn't have any internationals on the FSR of the CSR. I think they add a really value to our university, the international character of the university, and I think that's good to keep. But we also see problems with the growth of the university and Englishization of our programs, and I think it's also very important to keep that in mind. So I think we can't, as a university, we all see keep on growing and keep on getting only more students, more international students. There is a cap on that. So I think we should keep the international students as it.
Great, thank you. Now, Inter?
Yeah, I've lately read that after Brexit, the Netherlands became kind of the hub for international students and kind of took their place. So I don't know if you can say that, but maybe the people who used to go to Cambridge, Oxford, LSE, or so on, maybe go now to the Netherlands, and maybe you can see that there's a clear benefit of having these academics and future researchers in your country. So I can see that you also want to have sufficient opportunities for Dutch students, of course, to be able to go to university close to their home, and not everyone should become an international student, and maybe some people want to study at a university close to home. But international students are a benefit for university.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, Hidde, one thing you disagree with another party with.
Yeah, I saw some hesitation from one of the parties for the decision for the CSR to have veto for the position of the CSR being able to veto what's going on at the university, certain policies. The university currently still, even though we have this lovely democratic system that we have here, I wouldn't call it more than a quasi-democracy. There's a lot of abilities to be able to advise, yet students and staff themselves don't really have a say of what's going on. They do not have the ability to really make the management follow up on what the consensus in the university, and therefore we see that follow through. AP, of course, has been invested with actions and trying to make sure that the university goes a certain way. This is only because it is not always possible. It's very easy to set aside university democracy at the moment. Therefore, we require further democratization, absolutely, also for staff.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for highlighting the differences between the parties. I think it's quite clear already what the main themes of differences are. But let's focus now on the first broad category of topics, which is protests and demonstrations. I would like to ask you guys all, what should UvA's policy be regarding protests and demonstrations? Let's start with you, Hidde.
Yes, of course, we've seen the UvA violently calling the police on protests. The thing is, this is turned into their first reaction often, which is very problematic. The UvA should just allow protests as normal. This is something that they do not really want. You can see that in the drafts of house rules that they've been proposing. You can see it in the immediate reaction of calling the police. Very little effort into trying to understand what's going on. The fact that they have been so rigid is also the reason why protests happen. So yes, we should definitely, the UvA should just adhere to national and international law, things that their current house rules proposals are in conflict with.
Thank you very much. Moving on with UvA Social. And you will have 30 seconds for this segment.
Perfect. So as activists talk about, there's a lot of, the police was a part of the protest, like UvA called the police, and I think UvA Social stands for peaceful protest for students and staff, because I think protest is a very good way to get your voice heard and for people to know what's actually going on in the university, because at the end of the student, the staff, and at the end of the university barriers, the staff and the student are the main people who get affected, and it is very important for their voices to be heard. Yeah.
Thank you. And is there something that you don't agree with the activist party on the way that the policy should be like from the university side?
I think for Uwe Social, we basically, our main thing is about a peaceful protest that actually benefits student and staff. And we kind of agree with activists in that part.
Yes? Yeah. Do you want to react quickly?
Yes? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I want to make it a little clarification. There were protests here, and there is a lot of talk about peaceful protests, whether or not. And one thing that should be absolutely clear is that things only turned violent in two occasions in which the protesters were attacked and the police actually came to evict the protest. So if the university keeps talking about peaceful protest, it would be nice if they also take that first step.
Thank you. Yeah, let's go forward with Inter.
Yeah, universities should and always will be the place to raise awareness for issues which are maybe, overseen in the general public. So protests and student protests are like very important for the society, I think, and it should be protected. And it is the exactly right space to have protests on. So I'm actually very shocked to have seen the escalation of violence from the police, and for the protests and the restrictive house rules and the overall kind of very restrictive stance on protests from the university.
Thank you. And now for the Vrije Student.
I first of all want to start with saying, of course, everyone has the right to protest, but the right to protest isn't absolute. I heard the activist party talk about the law. If there is any public danger with the protest, then the protest can be cancelled or can be moved to a different place. That's why we have rules that you also have to apply 24 hours before a protest. And what here happens at the university is the police asked the people to leave, the people didn't leave, and then it's unfortunate that it came to such a hard confrontation.
Yeah, so just to summarize quickly because of the time. So essentially the university can set rules for when and where students can protest.
And that's not against the law, that's by the law because the right to protest isn't absolute.
Yeah, a quick response from Hitte?
Yeah, of course, the UvA is trying to set up more rules than the law actually prescribes, which is why I also said that it's in conflict with national and international law. Then again, also the university does not try to listen to the protesters in the first instance. Their immediate reaction is to call the police and then move all the responsibility for the violent eviction to the police, even though they knew what they were doing.
Thank you for the response.
Okay, thank you. Now, one last response, then we move on to the next question.
Because I think the house rules don't doesn't add any instances that the university can use outside of the law. So that's the first.
Perhaps to clarify here, I think that it's about the new house rules in which there are also consequences for students.
And the activist party said they are adding something to the power of the university, which I think they do not.
Okay.
I think we have to move on now because of time constraints, but I think both of you made your points clear. So moving on from this, many students have been demanding that the university cut ties with Israeli universities. That's why we want to ask how political a university should be. Should the UvA take stances on political issues? How should the university determine when and what stances it should take? First, starting with the Vrije Student, Peter.
I believe that the university should always try to be from a position of talking with other universities, from a form of diplomacy, to try to keep ties with university. But of course, I get there are ethical concerns with collaborations with university, and there of course is a limit to when you are going to work with a university, as we saw with the Israeli university where the ties are cut. I think I wanted to say that the commission, if people that really have the knowledge about it, and the commission says it shouldn't happen, the ties, then we follow that line.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, Inter. Matthias?
Yeah, so maybe to make that more clear, the university set up a commission to really evaluate all kinds of external partners and the relations and to take care, I guess, of their social responsibility. However, it is not really clear to me how transparent this process is. So I see that they made a decision on the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, but I could not really understand why then also not other collaborations maybe weren't ended. So I think what is very crucial here, especially in a topic which is so divisive, is to be transparent.
Thank you. Uva Sochal?
Adding to what Inter said, there was an ethical committee that was formed. It was started by the CSR in 2020 to 2021, if I'm not mistaken, and it's still going on. But I think, as they said, there is lack of transparency, and we actually don't know, especially with the ties with the Israeli university, we aren't clear about what's happening, and even students who are part of the university aren't made aware of what exactly is happening, and protests were made because of that, but I think there has to be more transparency, as Inter said. And even though going through the ethical committee, there has to be more awareness spread to the students and what's actually benefiting, because it's their university by the end of the day.
Thank you. Now, Hidde?
Yeah, the Activistenpartij has always taken a very clear stance on political. The university should take responsibility for the connections that it has. In some cases, you need to speak out. Of course, not all. You don't have to start speaking out on every single issue that's out there, but there are certain lines, if they're crossed, then you need to take the responsibility. And in case of the genocide that we see in Gaza and the rest of Palestine, that is definitely the case. Regarding the committee that was out here, indeed, there is a lot of problems with that, but I have to explain that another time.
Thank you. And thank you all for these clear statements. I think you will get some questions on this. We're now looking to the audience to whether you guys have questions on the way that these parties approach the topic of protests and democracy.
Hello. So, as a result of last year's protests, that have been students that have been arrested or have been severely traumatized, is there any way in which the parties plan to support the students who are still facing legal repercussions or are facing just other types of consequences?
Are you addressing the question to anyone in specific or in general?
Any can answer, honestly.
Anyone who would like to answer that?
I think it's rather unfortunate what happened here. Of course, last protests, and it should never happen again. And I feel very sorry that it was what happened to you. But I do feel that you have to also retake responsibility to your actions. And if the police says you have to leave a place and you do not leave a place, then there can be actions for that, and that's illegal. So sometimes you have to take responsibility for your action. And I also find the activist party isn't doing that at all. With the millions of damages that we've saw at the university the last years, rocks thrown at the police, even the head of the activist party doing it himself and getting arrested for it.
Thank you.
I think there should be people holding responsible for what happened.
Moving on, and let's keep it please to the audience question of how the students feel about it. The personal experience.
There's a lot I would like to respond to, but I'll just stick to the question that you asked, in the sense that members from the activist party have been there for the students that have been arrested, have been also going to the court cases, supporting them with lawyers. So in that sense, Activistenpartij has been very involved with CARE, at least with the people that we have direct contact with, of course. That being said, I think the university should also take more care, especially because I know of people who have been convicted wrongly. And I do want to respond also to the Vrije Student, that the CSR chairman of last year has not been convicted, and that's very rightfully so, because he did not throw any bricks at the police. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And very quick response from Inter.
No, I agree with the Activistenpartij on this part. It is actually also the university's responsibility to have an eye on the students.
Yeah, very short one.
Yeah, just agreeing with activists and Inter as well. I think UvA has to take some stance in it and actually has to show some responsibility. And just to put it out there, I think students were protesting peacefully, and it is the students who were actually bringing out something that they really felt for. And yeah.
Thank you very much. And we have time for one more question on this topic. Is there a question on this topic?
Yeah, in the back.
Hi. I have a question about open dialogue at the university and when protests come into conflict with that. Obviously, protesting is an important part of our democracy. But I was curious about your views on this, particularly as you're sitting on the Room for Discussion stage. Room for Discussion has been interrupted in the past by demonstrations. What are your views on this, of how different students can meet each other in the middle to discuss topics that are important to them?
Yeah, start with Hidde, I think.
Yes, I think open debate is of course always very important. One of the things that I do want to bring up, which has been a lot of talk about, is academic freedom. Academic freedom is not the same as free speech. There is limits to academic freedom. There are certain arguments you cannot make. If there are people sitting here that, even though the Dutch court says that the no F-35 parts can be delivered to Israel, and you continue to support that, you're actively choosing to support a genocide. There is no argument you can use to support a genocide. Therefore, you should not allow it. Therefore, it is okay if you disrupt these kind of discussions. Of course, in general, we should continue academic debate, but yet again, we do not teach eugenics or social Darwinism, stuff like that. There are things that are inexcusable and you cannot allow to be on stage, just like defending genocide.
Okay, thank you. Would someone like to respond?
Yes, I think it was terrible what happened here at the Room for Discussion, especially if we bring here such a good guest that all of the audience, just like now, could have asked all these kind of hard questions. Why do we still deliver those parts to Israel? What are your policies on Israel? What has Israel done wrong? You could have all asked him, but what did they choose to do? They chose to stop the interview, no questions asked, only the Room for Discussion people could ask questions. So I think that's just rather unfortunate, and I really like Room for Discussion for organizing these kinds of debates and these kinds of discussions. And I think it's really good for the public debates on the university campus.
Would you like to also
Let's say
respond?
I'm very glad that we have now the opportunity to talk about it. So I think I'm very grateful for the initiative, for the people who took the initiative for this event, and also for Room for Discussion to host this event.
Let's remember that we don't decide the winners of this debate, the audience does. But thank you. Yeah, okay. I think this concludes the audience questions on this topic.
So now we're going to move on to our next section about education. We want to ask you guys, if there was one thing you could change about teaching at the university, what would you change about it? We'd like to start with Inter.
So I haven't really explained our student forums, but we gave students the space to come to us and to complain, basically. And one student came to me and complained about there are so many assignments become more and more important these days. And it's always less and less exams, kind of. It is kind of a trend in university, or maybe with AI it comes back a little bit. And for exams, there's a general procedure for how to complain about your grade. And that's very, there's an opportunity to get an actual feedback of the lecturer and also the people who graded it, and then who explain how the grades came to place, right? And for the assignments, there's not such a procedure yet, and we are for that.
Thank you.
Uva Sociaal, would you like to respond or say something?
So we also have, we had students who came to us, and especially talking about this certain faculty. In FMG, there are some courses that have compulsory attendance, and if you miss more than, and it comes under education for me, because if you miss more than one lecture or one class, you fail the course, unlike there are some courses in which you can get an extra assignment or you can lever that. So I think it's very important because there are so many reasons people can miss a tutorial, and it is part of education, and sometimes there are a lot of incidents that happen that can make you miss a tutorial, and I think that should not, your grade or your course should not depend on that, and there should be more levy given to the students for that.
Thank you. Hidde, would you like to say something?
Yeah, there is a broad range of topics that we've been working on. For example, indeed, mandatory attendance. It's nice to see that we also have other parties that are working alongside with us on that point. That is very punishing. We are also very close to abolishing the BSA in humanities, which is a great way because the BSA is very punishing, especially for less advantaged students. And then finally, exams already been mentioned as well. Be more flexible, more oral exams, be more open and accommodating to people with disabilities, for example, people with ADHD, which have to jump through a lot of hoops, and we just also sent in some advices to change that. So yeah, a broad range of topics.
Okay, and last but not least, de vrije student.
Yes, I think we found a point where we can all agree on with the mandatory attendance part. I also think that shouldn't be the case. I'm also more for freedom for the students, like flex studying, paying per study points, those kinds of things. If I already can react to the abolishing of the BSA, I don't think that's a very good idea, because I think that's just deteriorates the value of your diploma. There needs to be one standard you have to pass to also make the value more worth something.
Thank you. Uva Sociaal, would you like to say
I
something?
just have a question for you. Do you think lowering the BSA from 48 to something lower will be more beneficial rather than just abolishing it, because you're saying you're not for it?
I am also not for lowering their BSA. No.
Yeah, Hidde?
Yeah, very interestingly, the BSA turns out not to have any impact actually on the quality of education. What we saw from statistics, which is why we also got our faculty to go along with it, because it seems like a very radical standpoint, is that we see that there is no increased speed of students finishing their studies if you have the BSA. Also, a lot of students, they have to drop out in the first year. They're not allowed to follow that same course the year after, and they just follow it at a different university or a very closely or similar study. But the main thing is we have all these hoops, which are very punishing, and the thing is, the statistics show that it just doesn't work, which has been proven many times, but also from research by ASFA and other researchers here at the university even as well.
So I understand that all of you have very concrete ideas for what you want to get done for improving quality of education. Could you maybe help the audience make a difference here for why exactly your party is the best at achieving this? How do you plan to do this, either on the Central Student Council level or on the faculty level? Let's start with Inter.
Well, again, back to our student forums, and we drafted a policy paper, and that is the first time Inter did it, but I think that is a very valuable step onto organizing and to being very pragmatic and very concise, maybe in the approach. And then also in the period where we now are looking for candidates and who are for people who want to run in the for the faculty and for the Central Student Council, we are very much maybe concise in our ideas, and I think that is what makes us a good choice. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we can go on to Hidde.
Yeah, the Activistenpartij is active year-round. We're taking medezeggenschap very seriously. We are in a lot of different councils. And that clarity also in positionality regarding, for example, what political line we take brings you a lot of clarity there. We are not a party that just pops out of the ground like a mushroom around election time, like most of the parties that are just a vessel to get into the council. We try to be active year-round, not only through actions, but also through coordinated effort between the different councils that we are in. So in that sense, yeah, you know that we really try to achieve our goal everywhere.
Not a mushroom, clear. Uva Sociaal.
So we have events in which we have people from different faculties come and talk about their issues, because it's mostly students. And as I brought up the FMG as well, I think we're just trying to get students to tell us about their problems and just understand what's happening. And we have people, like activists said, we also have people in different faculties, in the FSRs and the CSRs, and there can be more change made. And just because election season is coming and we want more people with the same ideas as us, just stand and just make a difference in the overall level. And I think that would be very beneficial for all the students and the entire university as well.
Thank you. And de vrije student?
I think where we differ on these points on other parties is that we really feel like the universities should really focus on research and education. And now we see that the university also has a lot of broad other policies and other things it has its focus on. You've heard it here all those other things. I think the main focus of the university should be education and research, and that we should spend most of, if not all, our money on that part. And that's where I think we differ with the other parties.
All right, and quick response from Inter.
I think maybe something you then don't see is that for having a good quality of education, student well-being, mental health, and a good diversity policy is crucial, and having a good quality of education. And I think that is what actually elevates education. And if you only focus on giving money and only focusing on having committees on the education quality, you maybe miss out on these other questions.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't totally clear. I'm not for abolishing everything other than the education. Of course, I think we have with study advisors, we have a very good system in place. But now I hear from the other parties like we need to support mental health also if it's not about the university. I think that's not our job. We get money from the government. We get money from everybody that's paying here to give them a good education, give them good research, and we are not paying them to hire psychologists because they have mental health. That's something the government should do.
All right, for small university. And a very quick response from Activistenpartij.
Yeah, I really want to tack on to that. And also one extra point, which is that there is a lot of extra things here at the university that teach you a lot, often even more or the same amount as what happens in the curriculums themselves, like the study associations, but also student politics, which teaches you a lot about how politics work, how society works. So in that sense, also, I would like to reiterate my call to run if you care for this university.
Thank you very much. This concludes our most burning questions on education as well. We also want to hear from you on this topic. But firstly, a quick poll here. Who already has a preference for a party here? Okay, quite a lot of you. So it's not a lot about convincing people, but there are some people to convince. And who here thinks that it's going well with educational policy at the UvA right now? All right, also clear that you guys have some good ideas. But let's hear about the questions. There was one in the back there.
Oh, okay. Hi, I have a question regarding the topic of Anglicization of the universities and whether international students are making an effort to integrate. I want to actually turn the table and ask, do you think the UvA is doing enough to provide international students with resources they need to acclimate? And if you disagree, what improvements would you propose? For example, the University of Utrecht provides free Dutch course and online courses for international students, while here at UvA we have UvA Talent that charges €755 for 4 weeks beginner's course. And from my knowledge, currently only the business admin students have access to free Dutch language course on account that is relevant for their future career. So once again, do you think that UvA is doing enough to provide international students with the resources they need to acclimate?
To anyone in specific or to all of them?
To all of the candidates.
Okay. Hede, would you like to start?
The Activistenpartij has always been a very strong proponent of free Dutch classes for international students. There is not enough integration. There is also the UvA draws a lot of international students to Amsterdam. Even when there is a big housing crisis, people have to sleep on sofas. There is no place where they can go. They are drawn in mostly as or sometimes even as cash cows if people come from outside of the European Union, because they just earn more money with that. And in that sense, the next point, they do not put in the proper effort to integrate these people into the academic community here at the UvA in Amsterdam.
Yeah, let's move on to UvA Sociaal.
So talking about international students, I'm an international student who's also a non-EU student. So I think, especially Dutch courses, it's a lot of money, and we already pay a big tuition fee, and just adding more to that, I think it is not really fair. And also, I don't know if a lot of people know about this, but as a non-EU student, before coming to UvA, we have to apply for a visa, and it takes a pretty long time, and we aren't very well informed about the long procedure. And sometimes because of that, it can also clash with our housing, and that's a very big and an important issue among students in Amsterdam and in Netherlands as a whole. So I think UvA can really improve and do better in this, because at the end of the day, there are international students and there are students at the UvA, and I think their voices and their interests need to really be heard.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add also on the housing part. I think that is very much for international students a very difficult issue to solve. When you're not in Amsterdam, it's already difficult. When you're in Amsterdam, it's already difficult to find housing. When you're outside of Amsterdam, you come here for the first year. That's almost an impossible task. So I think the university, we have an idea to give a space for students to maybe communicate over, I have a place here, I have a place here, and to maybe have a space where you are like safe for scammers, and maybe the university can provide like a platform for that.
But should the UvA also make some concrete policy changes according to you, or is it about providing a platform mainly?
Operating a platform, I think, would be already a very concrete step.
Thank you. And let's also hear from the Vrije Student.
If I can quickly react on this, I think that this again is not a university issue. It's an issue of the government, not something we as a student council can solve here. But going onto your question about Dutch lessons, if you become an FSR member, your Dutch lessons are free. So another good way to apply for the FSR. But as FSR FEB, I think we try to do it, get more Dutch lessons for internationals, because I think it's really important to also get to the Dutch labor market. So that's some initiative I really support.
So everybody agrees on getting free Dutch classes. Yeah. Is there something else that's another topic?
Yeah, I want to one more point on housing, because I do think that it is absolutely not okay to draw a lot of international students and then do not have any way to make sure that they have houses here. Sadly, there is a law in the Netherlands that says that the university can't really provide housing directly. Therefore, the Activistenpartij also has close connections, close collaboration with a party in the municipal council, where we try to fight for more student housing as well. So in that sense, we're also trying to make steps there.
Yes. And Eva Social also had a quick response, or?
No, I just wanted to add that a lot of people I know, international students and even people from the EU but not Netherlands, could not come to university at the end because they couldn't find housing, which is very sad because at the end of the day, they need education, and just because of a housing crisis, not being able to actually get the education you want is really, really unfair. And as activists said, it's a law, but I think just regulating among parties and actually, because at the end of it, it is beneficial for students, it is really important for us also to take part into this.
Thank you for that. We'll have more time for audience questions later. First, we'd like to move on to our last question, because there's more to student politics than just disagreeing with each other. That's why we would like you to name one thing of the party sitting next to you that you admire, sitting on the same couch. Let's start with Peter.
I really want to thank the guy sitting next to me for organizing this, and the party for organizing this debate. And I think if I listened to him, I didn't know him before this, at the debate, that he really listens to other people and tries to come up with good solutions that help everybody.
Now, Matthias, what thing about the Vrije Student that you admire?
I appreciate the clarity to actually care about the maybe also to have a different stance on it and to be clear on that. And I respect having a very respectful discussion on topics we disagree on, and still being able to work together maybe on the student council.
And Samya, one thing you admire about the activist party?
I think one thing I really, really admire about the activist party is that they are very up to their stance, and they are very supportive of things they actually feel really passionate about, as we heard in the debate. And just generally, they are very for the students, just like our party, and we really appreciate that, because at the end of the day, it's students for students, and we all can make a difference amongst ourselves. So, yeah.
And last but not least, Hidde about UvA Sociaal.
I want to thank UvA Sociaal because we've been working together quite well, and also how you, for example, just stood in for international students is very good. We've been working well, at least in the Faculty of Humanities, on, for example, mental well-being. So on those topics, I think there is a lot of points that we do broadly agree on, and I think we've been helping each other where we can.
Thank you. It was very nice to finish on this positive note with our most burning questions. We are still open to audience questions. Are there any more questions from the audience? Yes? Over there. Could you raise your hand again?
You could find me. Yes, so I had a question regarding the growth, to come back to that point as well, but then more in the light of the budget cuts, which we are living in, and what will be our future also for policy making at the University of Amsterdam. And then more in the light of how the parties look at how study programs are really declining, at least in the quality. That's what you see overall structurally. So I would really like to hear some, well, maybe some solutions to that since, well, I've heard growing isn't the problem. International students can't come in. I also think that cherishes our international academic community. But how do we deal with that problem?
Who would like to respond first?
Yeah, I do believe that currently there is actually the reverse happening because this is more of a government thing. Of course, there is a law on internationalization that is really trying to cut down on internationalization, and we see that even before this law is coming in, there is already a huge decline. At least I know it because I'm in the Faculty of Humanities, closely involved. There is a huge decline in new students applying. So at the moment, I don't think we're even talking about growth. And then the programs, yes. These budget cuts are really going to hurt bad, but at least we're working closely with the faculty to look at where they're going to land.
Is there anyone that disagrees with Activistenpartij on this? Okay, then I think you can also, okay, quick statement and then we can move on.
I think what he said is right with the law of internationalization. I think the government saw that it just isn't handling also what we all see here. It just isn't going to work. Keep on growing, getting more international students here. If we see now the housing problem already, of course it's now with the budget cuts and with the law of against internationalization, it's going to be. It's going to be hard for the universities. So we should try to be innovative. So, like our faculty is doing with private, trying to starting a private program at an English private program at the FSR FEB. I think that's one of the things we as a university can do to bypass the government on this.
Thank you very much. And there was one more question in the back, but oh yes, there.
Hello. So mine is quite a bit more of a broader question because we are all agreeing on how much like student involvement is important, and I think it's wonderful that you all stated like very concrete steps that you are taking or you want to take. But I know Inter mentioned that they have a policy paper and which like has all these concrete steps outlined, and I was wondering if we could find also like a similar thing for the other parties, or like where to find your concrete stance that are either ongoing or like that you plan for the future and so forth. Thank you.
Yes, so I get the Inter has policy. Where can people find the party programs, policies of other parties? Start with Activistenpartij.
Yeah, for Activistenpartij we have a year plan as well, which you can find, I think, through our link tree on Instagram. But yeah, of course, we are thinking about it more broadly as well.
Yep, thank you. Uwe Sociaal.
I think for us as well, you can find it on our website. I think there's a link tree on our Instagram as well. And just to know more about it, it's been updated. So just to have more information, I think everybody can look at it.
Okay, and just to clarify, are these general plans or are they for the upcoming elections? And are there going to be different ones for the upcoming elections?
I think for us, especially right now, it's the general plan, but I know the list submission is from the 7th to 15th. So before that, on the 6th, we're going to put in for the upcoming elections as well.
Okay, thank you. Same for the activisten?
Yeah, same for us. What's available right now is more a board or on our Instagram or on our website. But we are working on a more concrete plan for the next year, and I hope it will be published in a few weeks.
So if you haven't heard ideas that you would like to see at the university, make sure that you also sign up yourself as a candidate. Make sure that you set up as a party. You're still able to do that still until mid-April. Yeah. Are there more audience questions? Okay. You wanted to still quickly respond?
Yeah, of course, I hope there will be another more concrete debate when election time comes around, when we all have our lists, of course, finalized, and we know who will be leading the lists, and then also we have the party programs probably all more worked out. Today, we really hope that you find a party that you generally align with, and then go forward into this campaign that we are all setting up. And I hope it will be a nice campaign.
Yes, I believe all of you can agree with that. And I want to thank you one more time for being here today. Thank you to the audience. We hope to see you all, of course, signing up to be candidates at parties, and to see you at the next Room for Discussion events. Tomorrow at 1, we will be here again to have an interview with Professor Sander van der Linde, who is a disinformation expert at Cambridge. And Wednesday, so the day after tomorrow, at 1, we will also be here to have an interview with Russell Shorto, American author, historian, and journalist. Thank you to the candidates one more time. Thank you everyone for being here, and sign up for the student elections.